So we've got 3 litre TDI in an Audi Q7, and it's got leaking injector seals, so we can hear a chuff 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 when the engine's running. We'll do a running video of the engine, and we'll show you what the leaks look like. So all this on the exhaust manifold, that is coming out from the escape port in the side of the cylinder head, and it's showing that the injector seals, the washers on the bottom of the injector into the cylinder head, are actually leaking. You can actually see combustion gases being blown out of this cylinder 4. All this whole bank's going to need doing, basically. So we need to remove our injectors, obviously, to do our injector seals. So first things first, we're going to remove the leak off lines, and they simply pull up in the middle and then lift off. So do it again just for clarity. Pull up the middle, lift off, and then that's up and out of the way. And then we need to undo our unions here. These are 17mm. Now this one I've already cracked off loose. I'm using a proper actual injector socket, so it fits over the lines. Just means you don't actually, if you think putting a spanner in here, if you slip with the open end, it can actually crack this plastic leak off section of the injector. So and there's not a lot of room, as you can see, around the injectors. So yeah, I use the line socket that's made for the job, and then we can remove these high pressure lines. Obviously we're not going to touch these when they're running, the engine's off, we've let it settle, and we need to catch any fuel that leaks, but yeah, simple as that. We need to crack them off both ends and screw them off so there's no strain on the pipe. So the next step we're going to want to do is disconnect these wiring plugs on the injectors, and it's the usual stuff with the Volkswagen Audi wiring plugs. We need to push the connector on a little bit just to release the strain on the connector, and pushing the tab and pull it off. So there you go. So we're releasing, when we push this in, we're releasing it off of this tab here. So we'll just repeat that on all of them. I am doing both banks. We're going to reseal all in the injectors, and then we'll start pulling the injectors out. So the next thing we're going to want to do is actually undo these bolts that hold the injectors down. Say 8 or a spline, whatever you want to refer to it as, XZN. And these bolts are one use, so we need to, when we remove them, we need to replace them, otherwise we will not get the correct tension on the injector seal at the bottom end of the cylinder head, and if that's the case we will then get this same issue coming back again. Sometimes I've seen it where that is the case. The reason why these injector seals are leaking is actually because someone has done work on the vehicle and they've reused the bolts. Say they've had the rocker cover off, or they've you know, had the injector out for some reason, and they've not replaced the bolts. The bolts don't have the correct tension because these are stretch bolts, they're one use only. Reuse it again, it doesn't crush the washer correctly, doesn't provide the correct tension, and it may even stretch with combustion pressure onto the injector also. So yeah, don't reuse these bolts, get new ones, torque them to the correct setting, which we'll discuss later when we put it back together. So now we need to remove our injectors. There's no bolts holding them in place anymore. This middle one, which didn't appear to be leaking too much, or if anything at all, we can actually turn it very easily, and I probably can actually even, yep, I can actually pull that one out by hand. And as we can see, there isn't actually anything bypassing the copper washer, and we can see the copper washer is still intact, and there. Combustion up to the copper washer is fine, all that carbon, that's not causing us too much of an issue. We can get that injector out. Obviously these injectors are programmed to the ECU in which position they're in. They have their own correction values, and we don't want to be swapping them into the wrong place, so we need to lay them out or mark them so they go back where they came out. Now if we look at the ones that are leaking carbon, cannot turn them, so these ones have to come out with a slide hammer, which will attach to the top of the injector here. This is the tool we're going to use to remove the injector. HCB A2193 if you want the number. It is an aftermarket tool, and this end is just going to screw straight onto the injector, and it's a little slide hammer basically. So now comparing the two injectors, we can see on cylinder number 5, the one that we first removed by hand, there's no carbon on it, and we can see the carbon coming up to the oil O-ring, which we can see right here. This oil O-ring here seals the oil from the rocker cover cylinder head area from coming down into the combustion chamber. So we're actually getting combustion up to here now. So this is actually bypassing. This is no longer sealing. It is still looking like it's intact, it's just failed, so it could well be, like I say, the bolts weren't reused or something like that and just weren't holding tension. If this is left too long, this will actually burn away and be gone completely, but we can see there combustion has been leaking past it, so it's actually blown out the side of the copper O-ring. So yeah, this is actually where it would then come out the escape port out the side of the cylinder head and come out looking like it's got an exhaust manifold leak. It's not actually leaking out the manifold, it's a designed drilling in the head. So then the combustion gases, if they bypass this seal, they come out here rather than bypassing this O-ring and coming into the rocker cover and contaminating all the oil. So it is actually quite a good design. I don't know of anyone other than Volkswagen Audi at the moment that are doing this. Maybe there is. Comment below if you know of any other manufacturers that do this with their cylinder heads. Sometimes when the injectors are completely stuck in there, we have to break out the big guns, and luckily we can get quite a straight shot in there with a big slide hammer onto the injector fitting adapter that comes with a small slide hammer. Now the injectors are removed, we can see down into the seats and the cylinder heads. This one I've already run the vacuum cleaner through, and we vacuumed out all the carbon and crap that was in there. There is no damage to the seat, so we can just clean it up and reinstall the new washer. Now I'll go to the other bank and just show you my finalised cleaned seats and the bores for the cylinder head. So if we look in this side, we can look down the cylinders and you can see the seats are clean and the bores are also clean. And you can just see that tiny little hole in the drilling in the bottom of the bore. That's the escape port if there is a leak from the copper washer. I'll just go along and just show you in every cylinder they've got that escape port. All our seats are clean. Look at that, nice and clean, ready to seal. Same deal, escape port. And all I'm using is a vacuum cleaner with a piece of fuel hose. I think it's 10mm or 8mm fuel hose taped to it. So we vacuum clean it, and then we've used the little wire brushes on the drill. And using this just allows us to clean the bore and the seat of where the copper washer will go without actually taking any metal off. So we're just flicking the carbon off the seat basically. And then we send the vacuum cleaner back in again, vacuum all that crap out, and then we are going in with our big cotton buds basically, which I'll show you now. So we're sending these guys in, big cotton buds. The big one cleans the bore of the where the injector tube is sitting. The middle one I can use to clean the seat, so get all the carbon off of that. And then this one I can just send down the hole where the nozzle fits through, and we can just clean that out as well. So I've just put CarbiClean onto this. The wire brush has taken all the heavy stuff off. This is just merely just to get a clean finish, so when we put our injector in, we are going with our copper washer up against the clean seat, and we don't have all this crap on the bore, so we're just using these clearing out. We're not spraying anything directly down the tube because we're not looking for diesel knock when we start this thing up. We could cause damage, so we're actually just trying to clean, and we're using CarbiClean or brake clean on these cotton buds. The next step is going to be prepare the injectors with new seals and washers, and we will also clean inside the tip here. So we'll just use a pick and just pick all this carbon out of here and just give it a quick wipe over with some Carby Clean. Now this one was actually not bypassing, so this one was fine, but the rest of them will have to clean all the carbon off as well. So we need to replace this O-ring, and the copper washer. So we've got our new injector seals on the shafts, we've got our copper washers on. While we were cleaning the injectors, we noticed they're actually mushroomed, the tips. So this car has had either mist fuel run through it, it might be tuned, something has happened that is not correct with this engine. So these injectors realistically should be replaced because they've actually been mushroomed from something happening in the combustion area. We can also see on this cylinder number 3 injector, where the thread of the nozzle section joins together, something has happened there, like this is overheated or something, and it's very deformed. So something is not right here, and these injectors realistically should be replaced. It's something I'll be documenting for the customer and passing on the information, and unfortunately it is their call with what they do, but yeah, there's something untoward has happened to these injectors. And we can see it quite well when we go to get it's tight at the top and then it's really loose at the bottom. Tight, barely move that, and then loose, and it's looser, so it's mushroomed, and that's the same with all of these. Same injector mushrooming on cylinder 4, 5 and 6. We can actually see more of that distortion of the injector body. These injectors have been quite overheated, I'd say. So I've now got this Bank 1 set of injectors reinstalled into the car, and we've got the new injector bolts holding them in. Be careful not to drop the copper washers as you're inserting the injectors into the cylinder head. And we've torqued those new bolts down to 6 Newton meters plus 90 degrees of rotation. And like I said before, you have to use new bolts, otherwise this job will come back and you will have this issue again. And we've got all our lines and unions now tightened up to 25 Newton meters as well. So we're pretty much good to go, other than sticking our leak-off lines back on. We need to stick new O-rings on there, which we're just waiting to come in, and then we'll stick those back on and we're good to go then.